Hey guys, Fergal here, otherwise known as Fergerburger on Twitch. We're doing our first viewer review session today. So we're going to be doing a couple of these each month going forward, where stream subscribers get entered into a draw to win a free review session. So Mr. Rob Lyons was the first lucky winner. If you are interested in checking out the stream or potentially entering any future draws, you can check me out at the link contained within the description. And without further ado, we will jump straight into the action. So Rob is playing two tables of 25 NL today, so we'll see how he gets on. So, okay, he folded King Queen there versus Under the Gun Open. I think that's definitely too nitty just to start off with, unless I missed a 3-bet there, but I'm pretty sure there was just an Under the Gun Open. I think that was a little bit too tight. Jack 8 I would also be pretty happy to open the button with, as long as there's no previous action. A few standard folds, of course. Jack 5 suited, I'm pretty happy just to let that go versus an Under the Gun Open, despite getting the big blind discount. Even if it is going to go multi-way, I would not be inclined to defend here. At 10s, we obviously have a trivial open. So he does fold the Jack 5. We're also doing the card hunt promos. Let's see if we can win ourselves a few free dollars throughout the session. Jack 8 from the small blind, I'd be inclined to go ahead and fold here. With a bit of info, if somebody is, overfolding to 3-bets, we might be able to use it as a 3-bet bluff, but even then it's stretching it a little bit. We want a pretty solid read to want to be opening our range up that much. Deuce Queen suited, I would be inclined to fold it, even though it is suited, but I mean, it's pretty close to the top of my folding range, so it's it's not going to make a huge difference either way. Ace Jack suited, we have a pretty solid 3-betting opportunity. I'd be looking to size up my 3-bets here a little bit. Even when we're out of position here, I typically will go 4x, so I'd be making it more like $3 here, but it's a fairly minor point. Oh, gross. I get 4-bet here. I think without any information here, we have to just go ahead and fold, as annoying as it is to fold a hand this strong. But I think we gotta do it. Rob does go ahead and folds. 8-10, I'd be happy enough to open the button here. I think your button opening ranges are kind of strange. I mean, if you're opening Queen Deuce suited but folding 10-8 off, I don't agree with that. I think 10-8 is a more playable hand in position there. Be far more inclined to be opening that. So far we're just getting dealt reasonably trashy hands. Hopefully we pick up something a bit more interesting soon. Ace Jack obviously completely standard open. And we take down the blinds. Ace 5 over on the right table, I would be inclined to fold this from that early position. We'd be opening it from, certainly from the button, maybe from the cutoff from mid position, though it's just a little bit too early. And Queen Deuce off, not much we can do, but we get the walk there, which is a fantastic result for a hand that week. So Ace 5 over on the right table, we could definitely use this as a 3-bet bluff. I didn't actually see what happened there, I looked away just for a split second. And Ace 9 suited, definitely opening that. Ace 10, again, I don't like that fold at all on the button versus a cutoff open. We can flat profitably there. We can also use it as a 3-bet bluff with blockers to broadways. I don't like the fold at all. 8-10 suited here, we definitely, I was going to say, I think it's a pretty trivial call here. Not a huge, your raise doesn't really accomplish too much. And we've put ourselves in a really awkward spot here now. So when we raise here, we will not get action from many hands that we want. Like even his hands like, his open-enders will have, or his gut shots have overs as well. So I mean, he can definitely have like, ace queen, ace king here, stuff like that. King queen as well. which have overs and an open-ender against us, just have tons of equity, and they will have some Jack-X as well. So raising here just really doesn't accomplish much. We'll fold out his low equity hands quite frequently, but we don't really get value from many hands that we want to get value from. So I'd be inclined just to go for the check call here now. I mean, when we pick up the flush draw, the problem is here, like, he can definitely have hands that we just are drawing dead against. He can have aces, for sure. I think he just flat calls the raise with aces. He can have ace-jack. He can have some other Jack-X, like, Queen Jack, King Jack, where, we have equity against, but he still has outs to fill up and stuff like that as well. I still think I call here with the flush draw, but I think we put ourselves in a much more awkward spot than we needed to by raising this flop. So he folds. I don't mind that fold. I think I would call, but just given that we do have equity, but I definitely understand why you fold. I don't necessarily hate it. I really don't like the flop check raise there at all. We've kind of gone through why already. Pocket fours, yeah, fairly trivial check fold. Something I've been toying with a little bit recently is just starting to let the weakest pocket pairs go from early positions. So like the hands like deuces, threes, fours. We're happy to see a multi-way flop here though. I mean, when we get 3-bet and it goes multi-way, we're definitely happy to call and take a flop. We're pretty much purely set mining here. When this checks through, I don't know, I don't necessarily hate trying to turn our deuces into a bluff here. I think we get a huge amount of respect, and when it checks through, I don't think many people have an ace. I wouldn't do it now because it's just a much worse card to bluff, so people are much more inclined to call down with, I mean, maybe even king highs here potentially. Although, because other pairs have been counterfeited, like, 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, they've been counterfeited. It's not an awful spot to take a stab at this, but I would prefer bluffing the turn and then following through on the river rather than checking turn and betting once on the river. Just we're more likely to get heroed here. We get the folds through, which is fine. So any ace in the button, obviously an open. 6-8 suited, I'm happy it opens from the cutoff as well. 6-9 suited is where I draw the line. I think that's just a little bit too weak from, I can't see if we're at the cutoff there. I will be opening 6-8 suited though. Suited one gappers are fine hands to be opened from the cutoff. Deuce 4 suited though we can't defend. Ace King, obviously playing that. So I'm happy just to go ahead and 4-bet the Ace King here. I can't really make out the HUD figures, so I mean if he's a particularly tight 3-better, I think just flatting is fine, but as a general rule I'm happy just to 4-bet Ace King. We'll just picking up the 3-bet pot. I'd be checking back when we play it this way. I don't think betting here accomplishes anything at all. I think we have the best hand a reasonable chunk of the time. I don't expect to ever get him to fold a pair after we check back the flop. Even if he has like 7s or 8s with a gut shot, I don't think he's folding. We might get him to fold 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, but even that might get a little bit sticky if he's even 3-betting those in the first place. So by betting here, I think we might get some value from his flush draws, maybe. But in general, I think we're only going to get action when we're beat, and we have the best hand here enough that we can just take our showdown value. And I think your sizing is definitely too large as well. If we are gonna bluff that hand. Oh well, we do get value from the Queen Jack, nice. So if I was in Queen Jack shoes there, I am not happy with how I played that hand at all. I think when we check back the flop there, we're going to be reasonably like Ace King and Ace Queen heavy. And we're not going to have like tons of very strong value. So I'd be inclined to go a bit bonkers on the turn there if I was in the Queen Jack suited shoes. I think he is marking a hand here by the looks of it. Can't actually make out exactly what he's doing there, but I assume that's the case. So we open up to threes. Yeah, I think we're happy not to be attacking this board. We can just check fold really comfortably there. Ace-4 suited. I hope we are going to be opening this hand if it's folded to us. Looks like we are. Nice. Ace-7 under the gun though, we let this go. 8-9 queen should connect pretty damn heavily with his range. I would not be inclined to fire a bet here. I mean, he's just got so many hands that he's calling in at the blinds that will connect quite strongly here. I mean, obviously we will get the bet through a reasonable percent of the time, but I don't think betting accomplishes enough of what we want to. Like, he has a lot of queen x, he has straights, he has, you know, hands like ace-9, ace-8 that are definitely going to at least take a turn. Even hands like ace-10, ace-jack, he can call with, where he's, you know, calling to catch up, but unless we're planning on firing through there, and like, I'm not a huge fan of firing multiple barrels there on that board, given how well it should connect with his overall calling range. I'm not a huge fan of that c-bet. King deuce suited. If like I'm not a fan of just fast folding. Just in case, like if it goes massively multi-way, we can usually kind of defend those kinds of hands. But that's not going to happen all that often. So I understand the quick fold, but as a general rule of thumb, I'm not a huge fan of making those fast folds. Just, you know, if there's like 3 or 4 other callers, then, you know, we're gonna flip it in with a semi-nutted suited hand. In the sense that, you know, if we hit a flush, it's going to be a very, very nutted hand. So we get a very good price, and, you know, as I said, though, only in those scenarios where we are seeing a large multi-way pot, basically. It's not a hand I'd be defending in a 2 or 3 way pot. An ace and an ace. That is one of the better hands. Okay, pretty good board for us. We are afraid of some sets, but definitely not afraid enough that we want to ever slow play here. I'd be inclined to size up here a little bit. If he has a hand that he can call with, he is probably going to call a larger bet. I think we made it like roughly half pot or slightly under. I think we can definitely size up and look to try to play a bigger pot here. He can definitely float with just some ace-x when he has, you know, overs with gut shots. He can have some flush draws. He can have overpairs, like some of the weaker overpairs. So I would be inclined to go a little bit larger than we did, and I would be happy to follow through again here. We do size up a little bit here on the turn, which I like. We get called again. It's not the best to runouts for us, but I still think we have a pretty trivial bet fold here. So I think, yeah, going somewhere in the region of $4 here, going slightly larger, we're going up to 5. In that kind of ballpark, though, is perfectly reasonable. We try to get heroed. Checking and trying to induce versus his Mr. Flush draws is reasonable for sure as well, but I am more inclined just to go ahead and bet myself there. A few raises were really sad, but I think we just fold it. Don't think people raise rivers anywhere close to enough as a bluff to make a call there profitable. I don't think he's ever just kind of turning his missed flush draws into bluffs or anything close to it, so betting for value seems best. Ace trade, definitely happy to open this up over on the left table also. When it's raised before us, I think I just go ahead and fold it. We call. I don't hate a call. I'd be inclined to fold it myself, but I mean, I definitely would sprinkle in some calls, but my norm would be to fold. And now we have a fairly trivial give up. If he checked again there, I might take a stab at that and expect him to play pretty honestly. So we call with a pair on the right table. No, we raise. Again, this is kind of the same as our hand earlier on. I just don't think raising accomplishes tons. It protects our hand a little bit, sure, but I mean, if we're ahead here, and we get the fold through. Like, he only really has 6 outs at best. Like, he's never folding his draws, or which, like, every one of his draws basically is 2 overs plus either a gut shot, an open ender, or a flush draw. And we're not going to fold a 9 here either. And he can have, he didn't raise pre, so it's very unlikely as overpairs. But as I said, we don't have, you know, amazingly good equity here. So by bloating the pot here, I think we just get all better hands to fold where they only have 6 outs, and we'll continue with a lot of hands that have a decent chunk of equity against us. So I'm not a huge fan. We check this back, and I think we just have to check this down. So that's the kind of hand. So he had 5-10, so he had 2 overs and he had the flush draw. So it's the kind of hand where you can argue that we have the best hand and we're getting value, but it's just one of those spots where we don't really have the best hand. Like, he's just got so much equity against us there. Raising just bloats the pot unnecessarily. I think we can kind of call down there and play some pretty decent poker on later streets as well. Uh, 5-8 suited, I'm happy enough to go ahead and open here. It's close though. So I think so far your opening ranges pre seem a little bit too tight for the most part. And as I said, your flop raising ranges seem to be a little bit weird to me. I disagree pretty strongly with the raise on the Jack 10 board, as well as the raise with the 8-4. Ace-4 suited here. I like, if you're going to play it, I prefer using it as a 3-bet. This is a pretty awkward spot here now. I'm not actually entirely sure what I would do here after we go ahead and 3-bet. My point stance from earlier on, I think your 3-bet sizes are just a little bit too low. I would be looking to max our fold equity. I think on this board he should have connected strongly enough that I'm not a huge fan of c-betting here. It's just a particularly awful board. I mean, we do have the back doors and we do have the the Jack to hit the nuts as well. But yeah, I like your check here. I think we can just check give up. When it goes check, we can potentially stab this turn. Yeah, I like your sizing here a lot. If we are gonna bet, I like your sizing here because we can credibly rep Queen X here. We can have some King X for sure. So yeah, overall I quite like how you played that hand. I think pre it's somewhat close. Folding, I mean, if obviously I'm just talking readless here because I can't really make out your HUD. I think folding is perfectly fine. I like that you don't flat there. I think if we are going to play the hand, we definitely want to 3-bet it. And I like your post flop line a lot. So that was well played. Ace-10 here, I would be inclined to 3-bet here versus the button open. I'd be going to $2 here, but in general, all your sizes are smaller than mine. So generally, I 3x when I'm in position, and I 4x when I'm out of position. I like your check here. Betting doesn't accomplish chunks. The deuce is really annoying. I would still be betting the turn, but I think we must bet the river now. We can get called by Queen X, and I don't expect him to start bluffing here very often. So I don't like your post flop line there. I think the check on the flop is perfectly reasonable because if we do bet there, we're repping quite strong. I think we're going to get a lot of folds. The turn he checks, or sorry, we're out of position. Or sorry, yeah, we're out of position. So the turn we can consider betting, and I think that would be my preferred line. I think when we bet, we do get called by his Queen X and so on. River, when we do check, is just a mandatory bet. We have close to the nuts there after he checks back twice, and we have to try to get paid. And I mean, he can heroes there with potentially with any pair. Queen is never folding, and he might be able to even hero with 10s, jacks, 9s, 8s, those kind of hands too. 3-betting the jacks is fine. I think you just seem to pot with your 3-bets. So as I said, when I'm in position, I go a little bit less. So I'd be going to around about 180 there. Multi-way, this board just stinks. I'm not firing here. If we had the Ace of Hearts, we could consider maybe, but even then I wouldn't be a huge fan. So we pick up the gut shot. If it's checked to us twice, No, even I wouldn't. Well, it's bet into us anyway, so I think we can just go ahead and fold. If it was checked to us again there, I wouldn't despise taking a stab, but I wouldn't mind just checking back and trying to realize equity either. So we're watching how this hand plays out. So obviously there was a caller, and that guy just goes huge on the river. Not what we wanted with the ace jack, getting a walk, but obviously not a complete disaster either. Six eight suited, again, it's a hand I open, but I recognise that it's not going to be, you know, immensely profitable or anything like that. I'm pretty confident I'm turning a profit with it, but it's very, very borderline. I don't argue with people that want to. I don't kind of argue over the nitty gritty ranges from early positions, because it's going to make such a minute difference overall to your win rate, and a lot of it depends on post flop play as well. So I think kind of folding those borderline spots are perfectly reasonable. Deuces here. We're not deep enough to go set mining here. This guy is. Oh, sorry, no. I thought that was $18. I think that's $38. Yeah, okay. Call as long as that is $38. I think. Sorry, yeah, it definitely is. That's okay. I'm not firing here. Oh, what a turn! What a beautiful turn. So we are going to be raising now, I hope. Although actually raising doesn't accomplish trunks. Actually, sorry, I take that back. I do prefer flatting here. If we raise, we're just repping incredibly strong. And he can definitely have the nutted sets here. We have a really easy bet, and we can go, yeah, I like that you're sizing up here. We can go pretty huge. I'd be going even larger. I'd be going like 750, something like that. I'd be going pretty enormous. I think his calling range here is going to be really inelastic. I think if he's calling, he's going to be calling up to pot with pretty much the same range as he's calling half pot. So I think I'd be going kind of $7 to $8, going as large as I can to get called by the ace queens, the ace jacks. He can even have some two pairs and stuff like that. I don't think he ever has sets as played. But people don't like folding top pair, so I'd be going pretty big. He goes into tanking, folds. Thanks for a minute. I must remember to ask anyone who's doing it to try to avoid kind of note taking and stuff like that during these. I know it's not ideal, but I would imagine it just makes it slightly less pleasant to watch. But it's not that big a deal, of course. Okay, Jack Queen off. We can consider defending here, not when it gets 3-bet from UTG +1. Ace 4 suited. I'd be inclined just to fold this from under the gun +1. But I mean, calling is. It's not awful, definitely. Pretty happy to see a multi-way flop here. See, this is the kind of problem with hands like Ace 4 suited. It's just, it's a pretty good flop for us, but it's not an amazing one. So I think raising here makes no sense at all. So yeah, just absolutely call here. It's a board, basically these kind of min bets I just treat as checks. So we're happy to check this board. So we kind of just want to get this hand to showdown. I think betting accomplishes next to nothing there. Interesting that he min bet out with the king 10 there with the gut shot. It's kind of an interesting line. I probably got him to see a cheaper turn and river than he would have if he checked. So I kind of like it, but that's worth taking a note on people that do that with those types of hands, especially multi-way pots, because it means if we come up against this guy and we see him do the same thing, we can actually start raising there, and because allowing him to draw that cheaply just doesn't make any sense. And it is people do tend to be reasonably draw heavy when they take that weird small donk bet line. That's just a board where it's so hard to have draws on, though I kind of discounted it for the most part. But I see a lot of people do that, the micro limits with flush draws and stuff like that, where they just they want to try to set a cheap price, but they go too cheap basically. But I think overall there your line is definitely pretty reasonable without that information. Okay, I think we can go ahead and fold the trees here. Yeah, I thought that was an ISO. I didn't realize it was 3-bet. I was going to say call it first, but when we're not closing the action, and it's an under the gun raise where he can definitely be coming back over the top, it's pretty easy. Normally, I don't mind checking back these boards where we have it completely crippled, but given that there are hearts and stuff out there, as well as, you know, hands like, you know, ace 10, ace, potentially, no, ace kid, there's no 3-bet pre, so, I mean, ace 10, 9-10, stuff like open-enders and any heart combos as well, where they can just put more money in when they're drawing dead. I think betting now is pretty reasonable. I think your sizing is absolutely fine as well. So we get a caller. King is a pretty good card for us. I'm not really afraid of King Queen here. I would imagine he's raising his Queen X. So I think we can just bet again and we can go pretty huge. Oh, we're over betting. I definitely don't mind that. Get snap called, which is quite nice. Very curious what he has here. I would assume he has a queen, but I mean, who can say for sure? He had the ace 10. Wow, so yeah, so he had the ace 10 and he fortunately binked the straight on turn. That's pretty sick. What a dream turn card for us. Getting marked for review, I assume. Always fun when the dream turns just roll off like that and just max our value. It's just so beautiful. It's just such a satisfying spot. 6-5 suited, like folding there in the cutoff, I think is way too tight. I think we need to be like suited connectors are perfectly fine steel hands from late position. I can get on board with folding them in early position, but in later positions I think we have to be opening them there and going for the steal. Like, I just find people, in general, they overfold pre anyway, so, you know, you're just picking up a huge amount of blinds by keeping the pressure on. But people just play so badly post-flop as well. Okay, so we're quite deep here. I'm fine with just flatting queens here. If we 4-bet, I mean, I don't hate 4-betting, but my preference would be towards flatting without any information. Mainly just because if we do 4-bet, he just plays really, really flawless poker against us, where he might be continuing with like ace king and stuff like that we're ahead of. But I think if we fold, I think a decent number of people at this stage are good enough to be folding, you know, like 10s and jacks and stuff there to a 4-bet in that spot. So there's not not everyone obviously, but I'm just saying, like, you know, a reasonable percentage of the overall pool will be. And I'm happy just to go ahead and fold the queens here. I see when he does 3-bet. I mean, we block hands like king queen, and it's just kind of hard for him to have that many bluffs on this board that he doesn't want to bet that flop with. I think he can be checking back like a reasonable amount of ace x for deception, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this call. I mean, it's not the worst by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just hard to imagine him having that many bluffs here. Like, hands like 10s and jacks, I think, are happy just to take their showdown value here. Oh, well, we are ahead. I'm very interested as to what he has here. So he has the jacks. Wow, I'm surprised he bets jacks there. I think that's a mistake. The only hand, like, I mean, he can get us to like sometimes fold hands like that, exactly queen, but that's about the only plus side to betting jacks, and obviously we didn't fold it there in our shoes. I think ace queen here, I'm happy to 3-bet or call, both are fine. So we elect to 3-bet here. This guy goes all in, and we get re-squeezed behind, which kinda sucks. I mean, this is kind of a grim spot here. I think he's short enough that he has what, $15 there, I think, right? Assuming that is $15, I think just getting it in is, I mean, even that is still close. Like, basically we're banking on him just going bonkers with jacks or worse, and like, I mean, some raggedy, like some worse ace x, but I wouldn't imagine there is too many of them. Yeah, and he has the kings. What a flop though. I just know we're gonna get. Of course, I get there. Classic. Yeah, I think pre there from the back raise we have a fold in our hands, but I mean it's not the worst get in, but like we're going to be dominated by hands like ace king and stuff. They're a decent chunk as well, and I mean like at best case scenario we're flipping versus hands like tens and jacks. I don't think we're going to see hands like ace jack there too often. So we're just going to be up against a reasonably nutted range, and keeping in mind that the original raiser, he'll have like, you know, there's a lot of scenarios that arise there where he has some of our outs blocked and stuff like that. Like, so he, you know, he can have like, he can have ace jack and stuff like that, definitely. But it means that, you know, there's a reasonable chance that he's blocking at least one or two of our outs if we are up against a pocket pair from the larger stack. And as I said, just the larger stack is just not going to show us enough worse ace-x there to make a call profitable long term, I feel. But hey, we got there. That's the main thing. You won a stack, so you obviously played the hand perfectly. And I didn't actually see what happened there. Let me just rewind that. Okay, so we 3-bet the ace queen, which is perfectly fine in a squeeze spot. We get multiple callers. I wouldn't actually hate firing here. I think firing this flop seems pretty reasonable. Like, we block a decent amount of kind of strong KX, so I think your sizing is pretty decent here too. I'd go a little bit larger, like maybe sort of, I like going under half pot here. I'd be going like maybe just kind of 350, something like that. We roll the queen off, and I think we can just go ahead and happily check here, and we're happy just to take showdown here. And we are ahead, so I'm guessing he must have had like 10s or something like that. That makes the most sense. And 9, 10 suited. Wouldn't have expected that as much. Was 9, 10 suited even a draw on the flop? I mean, it must have been, right? I'm trying to remember the exact board. 4 is a trivial fold. Nice. Queen's pretty easy open up. We get a few callers. Hopefully someone comes with a squeeze behind. They don't. I mean, as far as flops go, it's definitely a fine one. I'd be sizing up our c-bet just a little bit here. I'd be going kind of 3/4-ish, so maybe make it at like $2, $2.20, something like that. But we've gone a bit big, which is fine. We are afraid of some sets, obviously, but if they have sets, you know, we're going to be losing a bit of a pot anyway. I'm happy just to continue betting here. I don't see any reason to slow down. So this is a spot now where I would be inclined, I think, to go for the check and try to induce. I think, you know, if he has a hand, like say he has a stubborn 7 or 5s, 6s, things like that, I think it's reasonably likely he will just fold to a jam. If he has missed diamonds, he will always fold to a jam. The only upside to jamming is here is if he has a hand like, you know, like king jack of diamonds or ace jack of diamonds, something like that, where he has hit top pair, then we do probably get paid with the jam or with the large raise, the large bet. I think checking is pretty reasonable here though. We do go for the bet. So he does go ahead and he folds. Yeah, as I said, I think checking there, given what a bad run out it is for a lot of the hands that he might, like a lot of his kind of showdown value hands that might call flop and turn there, like that, the run out there is just really awful for chunks of those hands. So when he can have a reasonable amount of misdraws as well, I think checking to induce is pretty reasonable. Ace jack, don't mind the check. I would probably fire on this queen ball. Just look to take it down. When it goes check again, I'd just check it down, try to take our showdown. Like, we have the best hand here, a reasonable chunk. The reason I bet the queen is, I think I'm happy to call this bet here. Oh, not folding, getting that price. The reason I like betting on the queen is that we will probably get a lot of his marginal low pairs to fold, so hands that are ahead of us currently. We get to fold out a decent chunk of them, and it's really hard for him to have, like, you know, a lot of really nutted hands there. He can have some decent queens, but if he has one of them, then so be it. We lose a small wager. But yeah, I'm definitely happy to call down ace jack there on the river. So we're just happy to 4-bet. We go pretty small here. I think your sizing versus the short stacker is too big. I think we can go a decent, well, not a decent bit, but definitely smaller. We can go like kind of 550, 560, where he's just getting that little bit more attractive a price. I like your flop c-bet size. We can even actually, against this size, we can actually even go a little bit smaller. We can go like, you know, $3 and just really see what we can do. And we obviously have a trivial call off here. Pretty nice. And we hold. Nice. Beautiful. So yeah, I think no matter what we do there, as long as we do 4-bet, we pretty much always get him in on that flop. It doesn't really matter what size we go or anything like that. We're getting an incredibly good price here, so we will see a flop, assuming that the big blind doesn't go for the re-raise. Oh, he does, which, fair enough, we go ahead and we fold. So it looks like you are finished up for the session. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Rob very much for submitting the video. Congratulations again on being the first winner. And as I said, if anyone is interested in having something similar done for themselves, we're going to be running these raffles once to twice a month, probably twice a month for now at least anyway. For all subscribers to my Twitch channel, which the link is in the description down below. So as I said, you can check me out there. I usually stream a couple of times a week, and we'll be doing these kinds of giveaways. As we get more subs, we're going to start doing some cash giveaways. I'll be giving away some equity in tournaments and that kind of thing as well. And you can also join my Discord chat group if you so wish. I'll leave the link in the description for that also. If any of you aren't on Discord, it's a great resource to be using in the poker community. I look forward to hearing from you, and of course, any questions, any queries, any comments, anything like that at all, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will endeavour to get back to you on them. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Take it easy and have a great night.